Hey, Lexi and Wesley, thanks for hiring me to review your throwing footage here. Let's get right into it. So the first thing I'm seeing is on this backhand huck, you're releasing the disc nicely on that downward IO angle, that inside out angle there. But the disc is kind of flopping around in the air and it's turning over and becoming an outside in. So it's finishing from left to right. What we want to see is that disc fade from right to left at the end of its flight path. Now, what's going to help with that is changing your grip. So two things about your grip. First is I'm seeing your finger is on the lip, and that's good for short throws. But when you're hucking, you want to get that full grip on the edge of the disc like that, you're going to be able to generate more power. Now, the second thing is when we look at the relationship of the disc to your forearm, right here, it's a little bit away from the forearm, and that's more comfortable, um, but it results in less spin. So you're going to want to have your fingers all biting down on the inside of the lip of the disc like that, and you're also going to want to bring the disc to touch your forearm for as long as you can. You want to hold it touching the forearm all the way until release, and that's going to guarantee much more of a whip and much more released spin on that disc. The other thing that you want to do is change the angle of the disc from something that's a little more neutral, where your hand is straight, to turning your wrist that way so that the disc is in line with your wrist. So you're kind of setting up where the disc, instead of being here, is finger in, disc more like that, and tucked to your arm. So your setup should look, when you're straight on, it should look like that, completely in line with your arm when you're throwing. And you're angling that down toward the ground, which you're already doing. I think those two adjustments to your grip should really help with maintaining that inside out trajectory on the disc so that it's holding more power, it's holding more spin through the flight, and it's not wasting as much energy flopping around on release. Now, the other thing that's happening here is you're trying to get a lot done with a short windup. So here you're getting the disc back, but your elbow is bent still. If you reach back farther, you're creating more distance for that power to be generated from. So right now, you're tucked in and you're winding up, holding the disc. I'll bring this thing down a bit. You're winding up like this, and then you're trying to create speed and power from here, but you can create more speed and power if you reach back farther. So instead of this, you want to extend out and get this arm, your throwing arm, you want it to be as straight as you can get it. So that on your wind up, you're really turning your back, getting this arm out nice and straight. It's not going to be perfectly straight, but reaching a little bit is going to add to your backswing, your wind up, so to speak. Because right now, yeah, it's a little bit short, and you want to get a little more coil and rotation there. Stretching and working on sort of spinal mobility will allow you to get that turn through the backswing, through the wind up. And then on release, it's almost as though you're stopping yourself. It's like you're exerting energy um, to like stop your body from continuing and finishing the throw. So you want to almost like when you release the disc, you want to let your body continue instead of exerting any energy in putting on the brakes and slowing your rotation down. You want a maximum rotation and let your shoulders spin all the way around. I'm also seeing that your shoulder angle is quite upright. If you could change your shoulder angle to dip a little bit, it's also going to help with that inside out trajectory on the flight path, because right now your shoulders are finishing pretty flat. I'd like to see slightly more tilt to that spine angle so that your shoulders are a little bit more on angle during that release, because right here, yeah, you're still pretty upright. Be good to drop that angle a bit more, because yeah, you're finishing kind of instead of finishing like this, you're finishing kind of like there. Okay. But otherwise, good looking throw. Nice far lateral step to get around a mark. I think improving the release with those grip adjustments will really add more spin to your throw and increase your distance. Now, when you do increase that spin through the grip, you're going to have to really compensate with where you're aiming. You're going to have to aim up more and to the right more, because now you're going to get your fade from right to left at the end of your throw. So it'll adjust where you aim, but that can all come later as you get used to the new mechanics. And then here we have another angle. Let's bring this into view here. And that one's fading left to right as well. We want to see that fade from right to left. We want to see the final bit of that flight. Right now it's going outside in, left to right. Let's practice getting that disc fading from here down this way, right to left at the end of its flight. And here you can really see the setup of that disc is quite neutral in your hands. So this is back to those grip comments. I'm seeing a lot of the underside of the disc. You want to turn the disc that way, bring it in so that it's perfectly in line with your forearm to get more spin on that throw. And here too, you're seeing like you got the disc kind of close to you on your windup. Let's bring it back here. Just really winding up, straightening the arms out, and getting ready to throw. If you think about like if someone's trying to punch, if you're punching from here, you're not going to be able to get as much speed and force and power as if you wind up more and start from farther back. Okay, so that was that second angle. Let's look at this one. And here we have a forehand. Okay, so we're almost there with the starting elbow position. I'd like to see that elbow position a little bit higher. So right now, you're stepping out, elbow's here, disc is here. I'd actually like to see the elbow come back more. So back, up, and higher elbow to start. And instead of the disc being kind of neutral like this in the grip, I'd like to see you bring it back as much as you can. Again, starting with as much wind up as possible so that the disc is fully ready to release with spin. So right now your hand is about here. Let's start with the wrist all the way back. You do get your wrist back kind of at the last second to about there, which is actually very good. Your wrist articulation is great there. You're getting quite far back. But let's start higher elbow, more shoulder turn on the wind up. Because right now your shoulders, your chest is pretty much upfield the whole time. So in that position, chest is upfield. Let's try to show some of your back to that upfield target. That's going to get way more spinal turn, and then when it's time to release the throw, it looks like it does release on a low angle, which is good. I'd like to actually see that coming farther down. So I would get that outside edge of the disc dropped even more to the ground. You can play around with like, this is kind of the angle you're at now, getting that disc even lower. So you're getting it almost vertical. Like when you're practicing this in the park, you can release some that are almost straight down as hard as you want and just see what that results in for your throw, because right now you are losing a bit of distance because of that disc wobble, and then the resultant turnover where it starts to fade from right to left in the end of its flight. We want to change that so that after your release, and your target will now change to be up and left, you're going to be releasing, it's going to be coming up here and then fading from left to right. But otherwise, that's a very nice forehand huck. Right shoulder is nicely dropped, elbow is in. Yeah, that's all good. I would play around with dropping the shoulder a little bit more, getting that angle of the disc to the ground a little more vertical. And if you want, you can practice closing your stance a little bit just to work on the distance part and then introduce the step out later. Because right now, this is a very big step out. It's realistic for in-game situations. But what happens when you have a wider stance is you lose some of that hip rotation. And what you can do in the park and in practice is to narrow your stance. So actually throw from an upright position, get rid of the step out completely on that forehand huck. And when you're throwing, practice throwing with a narrower stance. That way you're going to get all the rotation you need to throw farther. So the stance that you're standing in when you're upright right here, I would actually throw from there, and I would throw across your body. Instead of trying to throw straight out this way, you're actually throwing that way. So you're throwing across body that way, and it's going to help your mechanics, your upper body mechanics, and then later you can adapt that to a step out with a pivot. You're doing a really good job of your wrist release. That thumb is pointing to the ground. That's good. You could probably roll that out even more, like really exaggerate that effect of what your hand is doing. But right now, it's already in a very good release position. I'm just thinking you might be able to get rid of that disc wobble if, yeah, that's actually really good. Like your thumb is pointed straight at the ground. I would just try to get to this hand position sooner on release, because right now it's like it releases and then you can see your fingers flick up. So release, and then those fingers, they're in this position, they're kind of flicked up. You want to get those out of the way. Your hand actually it releases, it comes up, and then it comes down. And I think that's contributing to disc wobble. Yeah, hand comes up. You can actually see it's like up and then down. Release, up, down. Get rid of that up part, and I think the disc will fly much cleaner. So instead of release, up, down, just go release and then flat, or release and down only. And I think that'll take that kind of tip up off of the throw. Okay, next one. Another angle. Ooh, that one looked good. And it faded from left to right. Beautiful. Yeah, that's really nice. Step out. And here's where elbow position on that huck. You might be able to start with a slightly higher elbow just to get more wind up. But it is pretty good, pretty high. I like that I'm seeing a lot of the underside of the disc on release. That's good. That means the angle is good, but there is a little bit of like air bounce there. You see what I mean? Disc is here, but then watch. Up, it bounces. So there's a tiny bit of drag happening on the underside of the disc, and that's preventing it from getting as much distance as you might be capable of with your physical characteristics. Like you could probably throw that a little farther if it didn't have that much wobble in it, because right now you're seeing these first few frames, the disc is kind of wobbly. So just kind of throwing more where the disc is, instead of it kind of going like less scooping action and more just like the disc should be kind of in like on a plane the whole time, like a single plane. So when you're flicking, let's see if I can do this. It's like single plane with your shoulders. So it's like it's all just staying together. There's not a lot of like scooping happening. So getting rid of that scoop in your throw and instead figuring out where the plane of rotation is on the shoulders and flattening that out, I think will help quite a lot. Because yeah, it does look a little scoopy. But I do really like that at the end of this throw, it's up here and it's fading from left to right. That means you're very close with that inside out trajectory. Just changing a couple things on that wrist articulation, getting that thumb pointed a little more to the ground, and then also on release, having the disc pointed even lower. Like, so instead of throwing up here, you're coming lower, you're tilting your shoulders more, you're releasing even lower. Just to really exaggerate that left to right fade at the end. And got another video here. I think here we've got some pulls. Nice X step. So a little more height, and I know that, you know, not every throw is going to be exactly perfect, but I like that X step. Let's see. Yeah, that footwork is good. I would practice kind of bursting into it with a little bit more speed, like 10% more speed. But the mechanics, your footwork is very good here. I would just do it. I practice doing it a little faster, like pushing into it more, just so your upper body whips around a little bit. Because right now you are getting some whip, which is nice, but I think there's more there. And again, with the backhand, it's like you stop, let yourself spin all the way around, like a ballerina. Just finish that follow through. There's nobody there on a pull. No one, you're not going to hit them. You're not going to slap a mark. Like, you can run right into that, you throw, and then your body can continue to rotate. So don't worry about stopping your body. Because right now it's like pull and then stop. We want to finish that. That arm should be flying high and around on that backhand pull. And then your disc release, we want to be going, instead of straight at where the disc will end up, we want a flight path that's high and gliding. So you want to release up here, let it bend, flatten out, and come down. The comments I made earlier about the angle of the disc will help too, because here you can really see it. The forearm position here is kind of like, well, I guess for me it's backwards, but it's kind of like that. And you're going to get way more spin and cleanness out of the disc. Bending it like that, bringing it in, pointing it down toward the ground like that. And then that way when you release, you got to release like kind of on a 45-degree angle kind of thing. It's going to come out with way better spin. But we've already kind of made those comments with the Huck review. So the pull is quite similar. It looks like your foot could come off the ground too. Let's practice. Let's see what happens when that left foot comes up. So here you plant and then you drag. And that drag of the left foot, so you're planting your right foot, left foot is dragging. Dragging, dragging, dragging. That's actually arresting your rotation. You want to release that left foot, bring it right up off the ground so that you can spin. So here you want to go boom, left foot Bend your knee, bring your left foot up, stay on the ball of your foot, let yourself spin. Because right now you're kind of coming to your heel. Come up on the ball of your foot so you'll spin like a dancer and really rotate. Rotate and spin around because, yeah, you've got a lot more distance available if you do that. All right, and then what do we got here? Another angle. Yeah, same thing. You can actually really see it in this one. How your left foot is stopping you from rotating. It's like boom, brakes. It's like you're really stopping yourself. And here you're kind of. It's a good throw though. I mean, don't get me wrong. These are nice throws. We're just kind of going for extra, right? Like that's good distance. But again, there's a subtle like left to right fade on the end of that. If it was right to left, inside out, you're going to get more glide at the end of the throw. Nice X step. That was, I feel like this one was more explosive than your last one. But you could do a little bit. I feel like you could kind of run into it a little more, like get a bit more lateral distance covered because this travel here from that part to there, you want to cover as much ground as possible, really. There to there. And right now you're covering a couple feet, maybe, like, I don't know, 24, 28 inches from here to here. If you increase the distance of that contact point and maybe like really reach, like if you're running into that final X step, you're going to get more energy into that one. So I would play with your footwork where you're kind of getting a bit more speed into this step. Here, you're really pushing off the ground, shooting yourself sideways here to cover more distance. Try to increase that distance right now, because right now it's here. Try to increase it, like stretch it out. Try to be landing around there more. And then boom, you throw, and then here again, lift that back leg and spin. And your angle is actually, you're kind of like behind the disc. You could be more, a little bit more up, slightly more upright here so that that back foot can come up off the ground. Because right now your angle's like this. If you bring your angle up, you can spin better on that one foot. If your angle is like that of your whole body through your leg, that trailing leg has to be down to hold you up. So let yourself like really, you're kind of like leaning into that throw as if you're going to fall over forward, right? That's fine. You can catch yourself. But I'd rather you see your weight shifting so that you're really committing to the throw, you're whipping the disc, and you're almost stumbling forward after the throw. I would rather that. And you can see the weight at the very end of this. Like it does start to end on this foot, but I'd get the weight there slightly sooner, and you'll get that by having a more aggressive approach with your footwork. Your legs can bring you forward that way. You're actually doing a better job here of getting that disc back farther as well, which I like to see, than in the huck. And again, same kind of comments as the huck of finishing that rotation, letting the arm swing up after the throw and just finish. Because right now you're kind of finishing low and you're like stopping your upper body. Finish the throw. And here, forehand, pull. So the footwork on this one looks a little more hesitant. Make sure to get an X step going with your forehand pull as well. And instead of having your shoulders facing upfield, turn them that way so that you're running sideways with your forehand up, your forehand X step, your forehand footwork and approach. Because your shoulders are pretty much upfield. Oh, they do close nicely there for a second. Or sorry, they do shift sideways nicely. So right about here, that's good. And they open up again for the throw, great. But you can just run sideways with your shoulders here to start, and then you don't have to do that like forward, sideways, forward thing. You just run sideways, and then it's just here you're throwing. And yeah, you're just kind of walking into this. increase the speed of that, kind of like run into it a bit more, get that X step, because right now I don't actually see one. The disc is air bouncing, but I think, yeah, it's kind of like scooping. I think the comments I made earlier about getting rid of that scoop in your throw, I think we'll address that. Shoulder angle is awesome though. Like right here, that's what I want to see every time. Your shoulders are almost vertical. I love that. Nice. Okay, let's see the other angle. And here you can really see that the distance is just robbed by the fact that the disc comes over and it's fading. Like you can see the angle of the disc here is in the air. It's tilted very aggressively this way, and you're getting a lot of that right to left finish. You want that disc in the final stages of its flight to be coming from the left edge being up, fading left to right. And just exaggerate that when you're throwing in the park. Instead of throwing out and to the right and in, practice throwing this way so that the disc is going up and left, and then finishing on that left to right. That's where all the power is going to come from, is starting on that disc trajectory, the outside in disc trajectory. But I think the biggest thing you're going to benefit from on your forehand huck, your forehand pull, is changing your footwork to be more aggressive, because right now you're walking into this. There's a little bit of a step there that's got more pace on it. Right there's a bit of pace. I would just add more urgency to that. Where's your elbow in that wind up? Ooh, that could get higher. Your elbow's about there. Let's see if I can imitate it. I don't know if I can where I am here, but something like this. That elbow could come, instead of being here, bring it back and up. Start higher, elbow up, disc back, ready to launch it. Okay, I've thrown a lot at you. Let me know how the implementation of these tips goes, and otherwise, enjoy the new baby, and congratulations there as well. That's an exciting time. Yeah, looking forward to hearing how all of this works out for you guys. Take care.